One.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Explore Black History via Learning Commons Resources. This presentation is co-hosted by the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and the Learning Commons. We would like to thank the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for giving us this opportunity to partner with them to celebrate Black History Month. I'm Chrysler Pitts, and I'm joined by my colleagues Craig Anderson and Linda Cifelli. The session will focus on key movements, achievements, and cultural traditions in Black history. After today's session, you will be able to identify databases that provide streaming videos, music, images, primary resources, statistics, and scholarly journals. You will also be able to locate the subject-focused research guides that provide quick access to relevant resources and search tools. The presentation will follow this format. Chrysler will do the introduction. You'll be treated to multimedia resources, videos, and music by Craig. Linda will show you databases that provide statistical resources and scholarly journals. I will come back and show you primary resource documents and historical newspapers. And we will conclude with questions and Craig. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
Black History Month was originally celebrated as Negro History Week in February 1926. Carter G. Woodson, the gentleman you see on the slide, a Harvard-trained historian, and several other individuals established the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. He became concerned that African-American history or American history did not include the achievements of Black Americans and people of African descent. Dr. Woodson chose the month of February because it included the birthdays of both Abraham Lincoln on February 12th and Frederick Douglass on February 14th, two men who made significant contributions to the lives of Black men and women in the United States. In 1976, President Gerald R. Ford officially recognized African American History Month, and each successive president has issued African American History Month proclamations. In 1972, the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History became the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. Every year, the association establishes a theme for Black History Month. The 2022 theme is Black Health and Wellness. Now, my colleague Craig will introduce you to multimedia resources that support Black history and culture.
Okay, thank you, Chrysler. So I'm going to stop sharing this presentation right now. I'm going to go to the Learning Commons homepage right now. And there are several different ways that you can get to the Learning Commons homepage. Are you all seeing my screen right now? Yes? Okay, thank you. There are a few different ways you can get to the Learning Commons homepage. You can either go there by just typing in Learning Commons, all one word, .kane.edu, or you could even type in library.kane.edu, or if you can remember this kind of clunky URL here, libguides.kane.edu/ntlc, that will take you here as well. For right now, when you go to this page, it shows up with the Welcome to LC Engagement Zone is the pop-up window that shows up initially. So I'm just going to go to some of our databases here listed under A to Z databases. You can get to them from this tile here on the pop-up screen, or you can also get to it if you're on our main page. There's the main search bar here under WorldCat Discovery. We also have a link to the databases A to Z here as well. I'm going to start by going to a database that we have called Films on Demand. Films on Demand is by the Info-Based Learning Company. And it has several different videos, short films, and film segments on a wide variety of different topics. Now, these are mostly going to be basically educational films, biographies, and historical kind of history films. So you're not going to find any Hollywood blockbusters on Films on Demand. But we can go through this and we can search for example, like Black History Month, and see what Films on Demand has regarding Black History Month. It's got one here that actually says recently added. I didn't think I see this one last time I came in here. So there's a lot of different things here. Some of these are listed as being web videos. In fact, a lot of these are web videos. Sometimes you'll see something that will say like film segment, which means that it's part of a larger film. And you can either watch the whole film or you can watch just the segment. And we have several different ones here. We have a full video here. It's a historical film packages, 9 short segments on Dr. Martin Luther King. And we can watch that here. If we just click on it, we can either watch the whole video, and I don't know how well you're going to hear this from your side. We can watch this video, but one of the things that we can do is we can go over here on this sidebar. This lists the different segments of this video, and it's got the Martin Luther King holiday. It's got a wreath laying ceremony, something by Reverend Jesse Jackson. But we can also look at the transcript here for the video, so we can kind of follow along with what this person is saying on the screen. Now, what I'm going to do is just pause it right here. And when I'm in this little transcript window on the side, one of the great things about that is that you can do a Control F and it will bring up the find window. If you want to find something in a web page, you just do Control F to find something. So we can search within this transcript for, if we want to search for like civil rights. Anytime the term civil rights appears in this video, and it will show us right here, it's mentioned here, it's mentioned down here as well, down here. And then what we can do is we can just skip to that segment. If we just click at this point on the transcript, and then it'll start reading from that segment. So if in this case, it's just a like almost a 20-minute segment film video here. But if this were like a 2-hour film and we just wanted like to get a clip from it about a particular topic, we could go over here to the transcript and click here and then do a search for that particular word or phrase. It also has things here that will allow you to share this video. You can download this video, it looks like, or you download the transcript, sorry. You can share this video here. You can either email this to somebody if you want to email it to a classmate or to your professor. You can do that, and you can get an embed link, or here's the URL for this video specifically, or if you're trying to embed it into like a web page or something like that, you can go down here and copy this as well, and you can control the size. They have a way to cite this video if you use this video, if you're talking about something that Dr. Martin Luther King said in one of your research papers, and you want to cite that this video is where you got the information from. Well, here's how you would cite it in MLA style, for example, or APA style, or Chicago, or whichever. And you can also export this to EasyBib, Noodle Tools, or RefWorks if you have access to one of those bibliographic managers. And there's just a whole lot of videos here. If we do a search on civil rights in general, we can see it will bring us several videos here. Here's more segments. And when we watch a segment, it will usually tell us what the larger video was that it got this segment from. But yeah, films on demand, it can be very, very helpful, very useful for doing research, and it's a good place to go just to find information just in video format, especially if you're like more of a visual learner. Films on demand can be a very useful tool to research your papers and assignments and things like that. But I'm going to go now back to our A to Z list of databases. I'm going to get out of Films on Demand for right now. And I'm going to show out of the film databases, I'm going to go to some of the music databases that we have, because we have a database that's called Naxos Music Library. There's 2 of them here actually under Naxos Music Library. There's Naxos Music Library, and there's Naxos Music Library Jazz. I'm still waiting for them to get Naxos Music Library Punk Rock or something like that, but they haven't yet. So I'm going to go to Naxos Music Library Jazz for right now. And this is a lot of different streaming music in the jazz genre. It's jazz, and it does include the blues as well. So like, for example, if I'm doing research into like the civil rights movement and the troubles of like the 50s and 60s, I can go research Billie Holiday, for example. I don't know if you're familiar with Billie Holiday. She was a blues singer, jazz blues singer in the 40s and 50s and 60s. And I can look through her albums here, for example, and in this one, like, for example, Billie Holiday, very famously for the times, she had a song called Strange Fruit, and it was about the lynchings that were going on in the southern states. And this song got banned on a lot of radios. Obviously, for the time, it was not received well, but it was something that definitely had to be said at the time. So if you want to listen to any of these songs, you would just check them off here and then go back up to the top where the play button is. And then we can play this song and it'll bring us the little player here. And it's a really tragically sad song. And like I said, it was, she got censored a lot for this song. But I'm not going to play the whole song now, but we could listen to this whole thing, and there's ways that we can get a permalink for this, I believe. Is there not a permalink for this? Oh, you get the idea. So yeah, Naxos Music Library Jazz, if you're a fan of jazz music, it can be really good to just kind of go through this database, and there's a lot of different music. You can expose yourself to many different types of bands that you might not have heard of and different artists, things like that. And the same with the other Naxos Music Library, which is just Naxos Music Library in general. This tends to be mostly classic music, and they do have some Broadway in here as well. So you could find many different African-American artists here as well if you wanted to listen to those in celebration of Black History Month. And we have many other multimedia databases. If you go back to our A to Z list of databases, you can always go to all database types, and you can limit yourself to just multimedia databases. And we have other things here as well. We have a Broadway HD collection from Alexander Street Press. We have the BBC Shakespeare plays. If you're a Shakespeare nerd like me, that can be fun to go to. Theater in video has a lot of theatrical performances in video. So definitely, please do check out our multimedia resources as well. Okay, so that's all for me. I'm going to turn this over to Linda Cifelli now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Okay, thank you, Craig, and I'll share my screen. Okay, are you able to see the Learning Commons website? Okay, thank you. Well, hi, everyone. My portion of today's webinar will focus on statistics resources as well as databases that we could use to access scholarly journal articles. There's an awful lot of options for both of these types of information, so I'm really going to focus on just a few things and just to give you really a sneak peek at what hopefully you'll be able to explore further on your own. As Craig had mentioned earlier, we can access our databases from the Learning Commons website, simply by clicking on the button for A to Z databases, which appears right here in the Welcome to LC Engagement Zone pop-up area. But you also have the A to Z, the databases A to Z link that's listed right below the Search WorldCat Discovery search box. That's also there as well. There's also another option, several other options, one of which is by going through the research guides. There's a link for that right below Search WorldCat Discovery as well. So for instance, I'll click on research guides, where you see a menu of some of the broader subject areas that our research guides focus on. There is a category for African American studies as well as for Africana studies. But if you click on the All Guides option, which is up towards the top left, you'll see the complete alphabetical menu. And when you scroll down on this list, there is a link for Black History Month. We had created, or Chrysler had created, a Black History Month LibGuide several years ago. So this guide does focus on resources for Black history and in celebration of Black History Month. It's a good jumping off point for the resources available from the Learning Commons. Just to give you a quick overview, what you do see here on the screen is you land on the Start Your Research Here page, where there is the brief origin of Black History Month, as Chrysler had described earlier. But if you scroll down a bit further, there are some recommended subject-focused encyclopedias that focus on African American Black history. And these all appear to be ebooks. And if you click on the hyperlink title, you can access the actual ebook. When you're off campus, you would just need to log in with your key email, username, and password. So there are some other sections of this Start Your Research Here page. There's a menu in the top left area, which I'll come back to in a moment. But as you scroll down further, below those reference book images that are scrolling by, there are some other boxes that you could use when you're trying to gather different types of information. So for instance, there's a section for online encyclopedia databases. If you need to get background information from encyclopedias, that would be a good option. Here are some of the multimedia databases that Craig had explored a moment or two ago. And then towards the bottom, there's a section for recommended statistics databases. And we have 3 links right now for databases that, although they're listed here on the Black History Month research guide, they are also listed on the databases A to Z page. Now, I don't have enough time today to go through each of these statistics database options. I will say that Statista is a really interesting database to explore. It does appear to be especially useful for more current statistics, data relating to the present day. You may be able to get some historical data, but you'll have to kind of play around with it and see what comes up. Social Explorer, however, may give you an opportunity to gather some historical data related to African American and Black history. So for instance, if you click on Social Explorer, you land on this Social Explorer database homepage, and it does provide several options for searching within the database. So for instance, if you are a visual person, you do have the Explore Maps option. So it does default to these maps that are sort of here in the center of the screen. Let's see, so you do have options where you can click into these visual representations of the data and sort of poke around. And I will admit, I am continuing to poke around myself. This isn't a database that I use all the time, but occasionally I do come in to look for certain things or to help students. And I'm constantly learning all the time. So the more I use it, the more I feel I'm getting comfortable with it. I tend to focus myself on the tables section, which is over here on the left, because it does allow me, and it will allow you as well, to build custom tables based on the data that you're trying to find. So for instance, if I click on tables on the left-hand side of the screen, I see the different sections for the different data sources that are available from the Social Explorer database. So it starts with the US decennial census. So the US Census information as well as the American community surveys with the 5-year or 3-year estimates and so on. And as you scroll further, there are other options below, including a section for Black Lives Matter. When I click there, it says that the data set for Black Lives Matter shows the total population broken down by race, by ethnicity for the cities that have seen the Black Lives Matter protests. So that might be something worth exploring for more recent data. And then as you scroll further, there are other options down below relating to school data, housing data, and so on. But back up at the top, if I click on US decennial census, what I'll see on the screen are links for the various census. So generally it's every 10 years. So as you scroll further, we're starting with the most recent one for 2020. And as you scroll down on the screen, notice how it goes further back. Here I see the 1950s, 1930s, 1910, into the 1800s, and down at the bottom, we have the census for 1790. So I think we could use this data, use these options for different things. So for instance, if you're doing a project and you're exploring the Great Migration or the migration, the movement of African Americans from the American South to northern or western US cities, you could perhaps go into the different census years and track the movement of the population of the United States over those years. Because what this will allow you to do is zero in on particular states or even in particular cities or counties and so on. So you can do that for years. So for instance, if we go, let me go back up a little bit. Perhaps if I focus on like 1920, for instance, I'm just going to click to the right of Census 1920 on Begin Report. And this allows me to select options and build a custom report for myself. So right now it is defaulting to the whole nation. But if I click on that drop-down menu, I can select state or even county. I'll do state for now. And here I see that I can select either all states and then add them to the section below. Or if I'd like, I can just choose specific states from the menu. So I could always just click on, say, New Jersey, click add below, maybe New York, click add below. So notice how when I click add, the state name appears in the box below for the current geography selection. So I can do that. Or if I wanted to, I could remove, and I can also go back up top, click all states instead, click add, and then all states is in the current geography selections. That's selected. Now I can click proceed to tables. And this is where I can select the different data tables from the census. So if I'm focusing on something particular, like the total population, or here we have options for like gender, or age, or race by sex, race by nativity for white population, and so on. So you'd have different options here. You could, if you wanted to, choose all of these options just by clicking on the first table at the top, scrolling to the bottom, and then holding down the shift key and clicking on the last, and it chooses all of the tables. And then you can click add and pull them into the current table sections below. If that's a bit much for you, you could again just click on the ones that you want and click add. So you can choose as many tables as you want. So there are a lot of options for the different types of information that's gathered by the US Census. So you'd have to sort of look and see what you're trying to do. We even have categories for literacy, dwellings, farms, and so on. So I think over the years, there probably have been different types of data selected by the census. So again, you can choose what you want. So maybe I'll just go add race. Maybe I'll do some of the other categories for race as well. And click add. When you're ready, you have those table selections in the box below. Click show results. And then within not even 1 second, I think, you get a table that shows the data from that census year for the selections that you had made. So here I had selected, I think, all of the states. So what I see at the moment are the states that begin at the beginning of the alphabet. But notice how above the table, it's showing geographies 1 to 5 of 52, but I could click on next to see the next set of states and so on. So I have all of the states, all of the data for those different categories are pulled into this table. Sometimes it might be easier to see what you've retrieved by downloading the data. So if you look up above the table, you have the option to download this table and all of the data in it into perhaps an Excel file, or you can choose data download. And if you're trying to do other things, like if you want to get the data into SPSS or SAS, you have those options as well. But perhaps putting it into Excel even would just be a way where it's a bit easier for you to see. It's an awful lot of data, as we see right here, but here we get the full picture, perhaps in a way that's a little bit easier to see than on the previous screen. So this is a very powerful database, and I think it's well worth spending some time exploring it, clicking around, trying different things out. I noticed that if you go to the earlier years, such as in the 1800s, you're able to pull data, population data for slavery and so on. You can also explore on the left-hand side of the screen, there's a data snacks section. So I thought that was a curious name, but basically if you click on data snacks on the left, you have these like pre-populated data tables that have been prepared by the people who work at Social Explorer that provide quick jumping off points for professors and for students working in different subject areas. So here we see the data snacks for their latest stories, like the median household income across the US for 2025, I guess projected for the year 2025, the change in single mother homes. As you scroll down further, there are lots of other options to explore, mobility trends across the US. And here's one that says most popular, one of the most popular data snack tables is for enslaved US population in 1790. This likely would have been pulled from that earliest census data that was back on the previous screen. If you click here, it shows you a visual representation of the data. And if you move your mouse over the different counties, you can see the slave population from 1790 for the different counties in the states that are depicted here. I was trying to see if there are ways to download this information into a table format, into Excel, and I wasn't seeing that option, but I did notice that towards the top right corner, there is a share button, which allows you to share a link to this graph, this map, with yourself or with a colleague. You could also click embed, and you have the code that you can embed into a website or something. There's also an email option, so you can email this to yourself. There is an option, however, to export the map as an image. So I think this is a JPEG, but there was also an option to download it as a PowerPoint slide. So if you're doing a presentation for a class, you could perhaps download the slide and plop it into your larger presentation. So that might be something else that you can do. So again, this is just a little bit of the tip of the iceberg, I guess. There's a lot of other ways that you can use the Social Explorer database. As I mentioned earlier, it's something that I know for myself, I have to go in and play with it a little bit. But I believe that they do have some training modules along, yeah, right here on the left. So there have little videos that can help you, and you could always speak with a librarian if you need help as well. We're happy to help you with this, and we'll learn ourselves. But this was one of the 3 statistics databases that we have listed on our research guide for Black History Month. But I will let you explore the others on your own. So there are other options, other databases available from the Black History Month research guide. So for instance, if you scroll back up and look on the left-hand side, there are these blue buttons for other pages of the guide. So if you are looking for books, you could always click there, and you'll have some guidance regarding how to search for books and ebooks from our Nancy Thompson Learning Commons. We also have links for some of our ebook databases. There are some other buttons along the left. I'll skip over to the Find Websites button, which we have some recommended websites related to Black History Month. And there's a cite sources page as well, which has some guidance regarding citation styles. So you might want to check that out. But I just wanted to spend a few minutes under Find Articles, because this is where we'll have links to some of the databases that we could use to look for scholarly peer-reviewed journal articles relating to African American history, related to Black history. And what you see here are links for databases that once again are also listed on our databases A to Z page. Again, I don't have enough time to go through every one of these databases, but maybe we'll just spend a few minutes in at least one of them. Ethnic diversity source, if I move my cursor over the little I next to it, we have the description, and it does explain that the ethnic diversity source database from the EBSCO host company supports the study of African Americans, Arab Americans, Asian Americans, and so on. So it does allow us to explore different cultures, cultural traditions, social treatment, and lived experiences. And it does provide access to not only newspaper and journal and magazine articles, but also scholarly peer-reviewed journal articles. So this would probably be a really good option. And ethnic diversity source happens to come to us from the EBSCO host company. So when you click into it, you may see a search interface that looks familiar to you from other databases that you may have already used. We do get a lot of our databases from the EBSCO company. This is just one of them. And this database, like many of our other library databases, does work best if you use Boolean search strategies. So a Google search strategy where you just throw keywords in may not work all that well. However, if you use Boolean operators, and those are connectors like and, or, not, putting those connectors between your search terms will tend to work a little bit better, and hopefully you will retrieve some relevant sources. So for instance, if we're interested in finding scholarly articles about the Harlem Renaissance, we could just type in Harlem Renaissance, and it's likely we'll get a lot of results. So we're getting over 400 results on the Harlem Renaissance. If we want to focus on something in particular in relation to the Harlem Renaissance, that's where we want to put the word "and" after the initial search terms, and then add in additional keywords. So if I want to focus on articles that discuss Langston Hughes in relation to the Harlem Renaissance, what I can do is add in the name Langston Hughes. And notice how I'm putting the word "and" as a connector in between these two sets of terms. So basically, I'm telling the database to look for articles that mention Harlem Renaissance and that also mention Langston Hughes. So this means it should bring up a smaller set of results than I had initially found will get less than 415. So when I click search, sure enough, it goes down to 16. So maybe that's not enough articles to consider, especially if we consider that I hadn't limited these articles to scholarly peer review yet. I could have done that back on the initial search screen, but it's okay if you forget to do it like I did. You can add the scholarly peer review journal limit from the search results. We have that over here on the left-hand side of the results screen. Under limit 2, you can add a check mark by scholarly peer review journals, and notice how the list gets even smaller. So it's likely that I would want to consider more than 9 articles as possible sources for a project. While you're working in the EBSCO search interface, it's really easy to add in some additional EBSCO host databases. You could do that by clicking on the Choose Databases link just above the search box. And then you see the complete menu of all of the databases that we get from the EBSCO company. And I think a number of these databases would be relevant in relation to research for Black history, African American history, Africana history, and so on. We do have options like Academic Search Premier, which is multidisciplinary. That would be a good option. And if you think about this as a US history perspective, we could always add in a database like America History and Life. But we also have another history database called Historical Abstracts, which technically covers the history of countries other than the United States and Canada, but you can get some interesting things there as well. It might be helpful to choose a few additional databases, like if you wanted to have an education aspect, you have several education databases. For history, the Humanities International database is very helpful. Because I'm searching for Langston Hughes, an author, I think I would also pull in MLA International Bibliography, which provides access to literary criticism. And I would probably also pull in SocIndex with full text, which is a sociology database. Just by adding some additional databases in, clicking OK, and then redoing the search using the same search terms, I should get more articles to consider now. So now I have 321 articles. I'll limit to peer review, because I did lose that limit. So I'm down to 166. It's a lot better than the small number of articles I had originally. So just quickly, I see that we are getting a lot of articles that have full text links. So hopefully you can access the PDF full texts like this one. We can download it onto our computer, onto our flash drive. We can email the article to ourselves. There's an email option on the right. Often the email form includes help with the citation format, so I can choose APA or Chicago or MLA or something else. So it's important that you save the articles that you're finding, you keep track of the sources, take advantage of the citation help. And again, I'm not really focusing so much on the searching strategies here, but I would just encourage you to try different databases that can help you explore your topics, perhaps from different subject area perspectives, like what we did with these EBSCO databases. But keep in mind that the search terms that we're trying here will work in other databases as well. And perhaps you want to explore it a little bit differently, maybe using different keywords. We'll try your ideas out and see how it goes. When you're finding search strategies that work pretty well, I would definitely take those search strategies, maybe copy them, go back out to either the research guide or to the A to Z databases, and perhaps click into some of the other databases that we have and try your searches there. There's so much more that we could cover, but I do want to turn the mic over to Chrysler because she has some very important information to cover as well. So let me stop sharing my screen. I can find it again. There we go.
Thanks, Linda. And I will share my screen. Can you see my screen? Good afternoon. I'm going to briefly highlight a database that provides primary source documents for African American history. And I'm going to start again at the home page on the Welcome to LC Engagement Zone and click Databases A through Z. And I'm going to use the All Subjects menu and select African American Studies. And you see that there are 27 databases that we can use to research African American studies. For today, I'm going to use African American History Online from Info-Based Learning. It provides reference book articles about people, organizations, and events in African American history, and also features timelines, primary source materials, images, videos, and maps. And Craig did show you images and videos, and this database also provides that, as well as you'll see statistics. The database provides featured primary sources, and you can choose one of these to look at, and you can go through the list to see what's available. The database also has featured maps and graphs. These are the videos and slideshows that are available. And last but not least, you have featured people. You can click on the image or the name, and you'll see a list of people under abolition leaders or civil rights activists or trailblazing military figures. If you start right here, if you use the browse link, you can see that there are topic centers, and you can search by subject. If you wanted to research the Underground Railroad, you would just click this link, or if you want to research landmark court cases, you can also search by era. If you want to look at the Civil War and Reconstruction, you'll use this link, or maybe the Great Depression and the New Deal. You can also choose a type of resource that you want. If you want maps and charts or primary sources or timelines, you have those options also. This database allows you to save your research, and I'll just show you real quickly. If you look at the top of the screen, you'll see there's a link for my research, and you can choose an account. You can create an account, and you'll notice that my name is in the top right corner. And if you look right here, you'll see these are the documents that I've actually saved, and you can create folders. And I have one for Black History Month, and I also have one for Harlem Renaissance. So Linda and I were kind of like thinking on the same thing, because in my Harlem Renaissance folder, I also have Langston Hughes. So this is a really good resource, and you see that I've saved like biographies or a primary source document, a book chapter, a slideshow. You have lots of different resources that you can save. I'm just going to briefly look at one of the featured primary sources, the letter from Birmingham Jail. And this is a letter that was written by Dr. Martin Luther King, April 16, 1963, from the Birmingham Jail. And this little section right here gives you the background information on the letter. It was a letter written by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. during his 9-day imprisonment in Birmingham, Alabama, April 12th through 20th, 1963, for organizing a series of anti-segregation demonstrations. And the letter was a reply to an appeal that had been issued in January 1963 by 8 white Birmingham clergymen. And the letter is titled An Appeal for Law and Order and Common Sense. And the clergyman's letter had urged civil rights leaders to seek redress for racial injustice through the courts rather than mass demonstrations. And King responded in biblical terms. So you see below, this is his letter. He starts with, "My dear fellow clergymen," and the entire letter is here, and it is quite lengthy, but all of it is included in this database. You have the option of saving this. If you want to save it to your folder, you would just click there. And for example, I could save it under Black History Month, just click Save to Folder. Or if I wanted to create a new folder, I could. I clicked away really quickly. You can print this letter, you can share it. Here is the direct link to the letter, and this link will not expire. You can email this link, or you can share it to your Google Classroom. You can download this letter, and this database also has citation tools as well. You can choose MLA, Chicago, or Harvard, or you can export it to Noodle Tools or EasyBid. Of course, these citations are machine generated, so you need to check the citations against the manual. Let's just go back to home. And you can choose a topic from the topic center, or if you just want to type a topic in the search box, you can do that. So I'm just going to type Underground Railroad in the search box. And you see that I have 236 results. These results include articles, primary sources, images, videos, timelines, and news. And I can narrow my results. For example, I wanted a biography. We'll look to see the biographies that are available. And you'll see that William Still, his biography comes up first. And this is a biography of William Still. He was born in 1821 and died in 1902. And he was actually born in New Jersey. You'll see that he was born October 7, 1821 to former slaves who were living in rural New Jersey. And you can see that on the right, there are tags. And these are the subjects that are in this biography. And you can get additional material by clicking on one of the tags. Like if you want to look at information regarding fugitive slaves, click the fugitive slave tag, and you'll see that we have images, articles, and videos, 49, that are tagged with fugitive slave. This database has a lot of good resources. Again, there are maps, there are featured videos and slideshows, and you can search by era. And if you wanted to look at trailblazing military figures, you have that option. Some of the articles are short, some are longer, depending on how well known the person is. You have timelines. If you wanted to look at a timeline of slavery, you can click this link. And you see that this is a timeline of slavery. And this database provides lots of resources. So it's a good option to keep in mind if you would like to research African American history. You can use the African American history database from Infobase. I'm going to switch gears, and in the last few minutes that we have left, I'm going to show you a historical newspaper database, and I'm going to use the all database types menu. And we have 18 newspapers. We actually have 3 historical newspaper databases. We have America's historical newspapers, New Jersey historical newspapers, and we also have a historical newspaper from the New York Times, and the coverage is from September 1851 to, I think it's like 2017, it might be 2018 now. And in the little bit of time that we have left, I'm just going to do a quick search, and I decided to search for Carter G. Woodson. And we talked about him earlier in the session, and I'm putting his name in quotes because I just want to see articles that are just about him. So I'm just going to do a quick search on Carter G. Woodson. And one thing I like about Progress, and it is 1851 through 2018, you can see, and as soon as this loads, the time range for our articles is 1950 to 2018, and you can change that if you'd like. You can also change the way your articles are sorted. These are sorted by relevance, but I would like to change to oldest first. And you'll notice that our first article is actually a display ad, number 35. There's no title, and it was published in the New York Times, May 23rd, 1915. And when I looked at these results, I said, why would Carter G. Woodson be in a display ad? But it's really interesting. Let's look at it for a minute. If you look at the screen, once it loads, you'll see in the corner, it says Putnam's New Publications, Educating the Negro Prior to 1861, the history of the education of colored people of the United States from the beginning of slavery to the Civil War by Carter G. Woodson. So this is an ad advertising his book. It's 460 pages and it costs $2. So I thought it was really interesting to see this ad in the newspaper from 1915. And if you go back to the results, you'll see that there are other articles about Carter G. Woodson. Let's look at number 2 for a minute. And right now, this is how the article is on the page within the New York Times. But if you click page view, it shows you the complete page and where the article appeared on the complete page. I don't know if you can see that. You see it's right here, the Negro Mind. And ProQuest gives you lots of options as well for saving. And let me see, I'll show you. You can also do the same things with ProQuest that you could with the other databases that my colleague showed you. You click the All Options menu. You can download the PDF or download the entire page. You can cite, and your options are APA. There's a whole list of options to choose from. And again, these are machine generated, so you need to check your citation manuals. You can also save it to my research. ProQuest gives you the same type of tool that African American History Online gives you to save your research. Make sure that when you're saving the link to the article, you use this link right here. It says document URL. This is a permanent link that will not expire. You have other options for citations. You can export your citation to EndNote or Noodle Tools or EasyBib, and you can also save it as a PDF. You have other options. This is a really good database. Really quickly, you'll notice right here there are related items. Like you'll see there's an article on the lynching in North Carolina from 1900. Some other articles that are all related to this article. So ProQuiz's Historical Newspapers is a good database to use if you're searching a history topic. And all of the databases that we've covered today, you can access from home using your clean Google email credentials. My time is up. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn the mic back to Craig. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chrysler. Let me share my screen again. And I'm just going to go back to our slideshow and go to our discussion and questions slide. As my colleagues and I have shown you, there's lots of different resources that you can get at the Nancy Thompson Learning Commons on the history of Black History Month specifically, and just on Black history in general. Through multimedia resources, as well as the online databases that we have, and a lot of kind of firsthand historical resources, like the ones that Ms. Pitts showed us. So the only thing left is, are there any questions, or does anybody have any points they'd like to make? Anything like that? That includes you too, Linda and Chrysler, if you have any other points you'd like to make or any questions. So, okay, in that case, I'm going to bring this session to a close. Thank you all for coming, or if you're watching this later through the video, which we're saving. Linda has her hand raised. I'm sorry.
Oh, actually, I think, would you like to pull up our contact information in case
Yes, I would.
anyone
Okay.
viewing the video has any questions?
Sorry about that.
No, thank you.
This is our contact information. You can contact us through email. Also on the Learning Commons homepage, there's a way you can schedule a reference appointment with a librarian. And I'm pretty sure all our names come up when you try and schedule an appointment, depending on our availability. So please feel free to schedule an appointment with us if you're doing some kind of deep dive into the research of any of these topics that we've discussed, or anything else really. And as always, you can contact us by our email address here as well. Oh, I didn't mean to click on that. Yeah. So yes, there's our contact information. I'll give you time to either pause the video now if you need to write these down or anything like that. No? Okay. Again, thank you all for coming, or thank you for watching this at some future date. And we hope to see you in the Learning Commons soon. So let me stop sharing my screen. And then let me stop this recording. I haven't figured out how to do that. Where is, oh, there it is. Okay, thank you. Okay, have a great rest of your day. Bye.